you gotta go into this new section.
Okay, everybody set? Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Thursday, May 2nd, New Ulm Tree Advisory Commission meeting, roll call. Welcome introductions. Let's start with Mr. Kaler down there.
I am Steve Kaler, city engineer.
Lisa Langer, Commissioner member.
Scott Sparlin, 810 3rd North Street.
Wayne Shopper, 405 South Highland, here in town.
Arlen Body, Commissioner member.
Tom Romaine, 644 Fender Drive, a commission member.
Tom Schmitz, Park and Recreation Department.
Okay, very good, very good. Approval of agenda. Has everyone had a chance to view the agenda, and do we have a motion to approve as such?
I would offer that motion.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's approval of the agenda. Now let's take a look at the minutes. March 7th was the last time the commission met. Any comments, or do we have a motion to approve the minutes from the March 7th, 2019 Tree Commission meeting?
I would move to accept the minutes as distributed.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. Motion passes. Moving right through the agenda, old business, Broadway tree planting update. Commissioner Langer would like an update on the past MnDOT city project. How are they doing? Who's in charge? Are they warranted, et cetera? Warranted, et cetera?
Yes, I know we talked about that last
Okay.
summer when those trees came down, and I know it seems to me somebody's in charge of maintaining those trees, and I was wondering if anyone knew if the trees survived.
Mr. Chair, I can take a stab at that. I grabbed the file about an hour ago and tried to go through it a little bit when I noticed this on the agenda. So in 2017, MnDOT, the state of Minnesota did a mill and overlay on Broadway from 7th North past Jensen Motors down there. And as part of that project, I think they removed approximately 30 trees. I didn't look at the bid tabulation, but as I recall, it was about 30 trees that they designated as structurally unsound. And then as a follow-up to that, in 2018, they came back in conjunction with the city. It was a state job, a MnDOT job, and tried to replace as many of those trees as they could. And then on top of that, the city funded infill areas where there was trees that were missing. So approximately a year ago, on May 1st of 2018, they planted 70 trees. 44 of those were city infill, and 26 of those were to replace the MnDOT removals. So the city paid for the 44, and the state paid for the 26. There was an inventory that was done a few months later. There were 13 trees that had died, and those were replaced as part of the contract. There's a 2-year maintenance on that project. So from yesterday, there's still 1 more year on it. So sometime this summer, and maybe even more than once, they'll go out and inventory, make sure everything's budding out, and eventually in fall, replace anything that's dead. So we do have a 2-year maintenance on it, or they do. After that, it falls to the homeowner or the adjacent property owner for maintenance. But hopefully after 2 years, they've established to the point where they'll be okay. Interestingly, of the 13 that died, 11 of them were Kentucky coffee trees. And I don't know if that's, a tree is a living thing, if it just was a poor quality tree when it came, or the environment, it didn't like the environment. So we cut back on replanting those. So I don't know if I answer your, go ahead, Tom.
Was that all of the Kentucky coffee tree, or
It
just?
was.
Okay, that might be
Let me just double
planting
check.
stock
Did
issues.
bring those quantities.
How many actually survived?
Yeah, it was all of the trees.
Yeah.
So 70 minus 13,
Okay.
which is
80%?
typically 20%. That's what I see all the time, is 20% of new trees.
50 is right.
And sometimes it's worse, sometimes it's better, but
Okay.
for an estimate, that's what I always use. So it's about average.
So since some of it were city trees and some were state trees, who maintains those, the state or the city?
The contractor maintains them for 2 years. They have a warranty on them, and then after that, all the trees will be maintained by the adjoining property owners.
Okay. Thank you.
What
Sure.
was the Kentucky coffee tree replaced with? You remember
You know,
the
I
species?
don't know, Mr. Romaine, I'd have to check. I didn't bring the whole file or the whole plan with me. There was a variety of, I think, 8 or 9 different species, so I think they tried to mix it up.
Thank you.
Tom, normally would a coffee tree would have done okay, so you're thinking that maybe it was just poor
Well,
quality?
you know,
or-
if it had been, you know, of the 26 trees, if they were a mix of species, I wouldn't ascribe it to nursery issues but you know, when all of the single species die, usually indicates to me that there's something wrong with the planting stock.
Stock was, it could be.
Kentucky coffee tree is native to this area. It's a river bottom species, and it grows in scattered places. And a friend of mine used to say that if you found a cluster of Kentucky coffee trees, it was a good place to look for Native American artifacts, because they used to use the seeds as like poker chips in gambling games, and then they would
Interesting.
just discard them when they were moved on.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you, Mr. Kaler. New business, 2019 city reimbursement programs and budget update. Mr. Kaler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you can imagine, you have a spreadsheet in your packet, I believe, as well. You can hit that little blue thing if you want to look at it. We haven't had any activity in the reimbursement program. I'm sure that'll ramp up by our next meeting. And the only expense that's been billed through has been, I think, the tree stuffer that was put in for, not sure what month it went out. Is it the big tree contest? Tom, do you know what that would have been? It was printing of the stuffer. I don't know if it went out. or
Yeah,
not.
the utility insert that went out in April, and then we always bring some of those copies to the home show. So that's kind of the annual spring printing cost.
Did that actually go out in April? Or-
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
you.
and I think it's in the
Yeah.
packet.
So about $290 was charged to that. So the balance on is still $5,700 in the tree commission budget.
Okay, any additional comments? Okay. Item 6.2, 2019 PUC reimbursement programs and budget update. Do you have any?
Chair and members, Derek Nelson is unable to attend the meeting, but his information was in the packet, and similar to the city reimbursement program, there's been no activity yet this spring, but I'm certain there will be, as there has been in the past. You see his report from last meeting about what was budgeted, and they, overspent in 2018. They gave more rebates than were budgeted to give of $3,000. So no news there, but the program continues as annually, and I'm certain that in the next few meetings there will be reimbursement information.
Okay, very good. Any questions or comments? Okay, moving on. 6.3 Buckthorn update. I guess we'll bench that for now. 6.4 utility billing information insert April and August.
So Chair and members, you have two attachments in the packet there. The first one is the April flyer that went out a month ago. And that was the big tree contest on one side of the page, and the other side of the page had our reimbursement programs. And actually, I think there was Buckthorn information, but it's not showing up on my screen. And so additionally in the packet, we show what we did last August of 18. We had a two-sided flyer go out in the utility billing. And it looks like that had a number of items, including, our reimbursement programs, winter pruning tips, buckthorn, and reducing crop damage, and protecting trees from deer. So I just wanted to put in the packet what happened this past April and what we did in August of 18, in anticipation of you recommending at this meeting or no later than our next meeting. Might even be a good idea to have some conversation and maybe do a recommendation at this meeting if you're willing to do so. That gives staff and the commission plenty of time to draft the August utility flyer.
So that's a work in process yet, obviously. It's 3 months away, August 19, obviously. So,
Yes.
Okay.
You know, we don't have our July meeting set yet either, so I would suggest a little discussion with you commissioners as to what you might recommend be placed in an August flyer.
Commissioners,
What
are
topics?
What are your thoughts?
Mr. Chair, correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, but wasn't there some issue with the April flyer, the Nexel thing was inserted rather than our flyer? So this has not even gone out, I don't believe,
Oh,
but I'm not certain. And I don't know what the replacement would be.
yeah, we'll have
This
to,
gentleman generally,
we'll have to
takes
look
care-
into
yeah,
that.
yeah,
My understanding was that it went out, but maybe it did not go out.
we'll check into that and when it's gonna go out, perhaps. I'm not certain.
Yeah. So, you know, maybe you don't need to discuss a topic for the next flyer if we still are sitting on 6,500 of those flyers in the basement mailroom. Any local utility customers here at the table? Yes. Do you recall anything in your April bill? Yeah, I'm not certain right offhand.
Don't recall.
I can't.
I can't recall either. I remember the bill, but I don't recall.
Never forget the bill.
I know that we, Mr. Chair, members, I know we discussed it at the last meeting, that there was a glitch, and that there, for some reason, that we were not gonna be in the next.
Yeah,
next
okay,
one.
that certainly could have been what transpired, so staff will double check on all that information. And, you know, our next meeting, I presume, will be in July.
Mr. Chair, I think maybe Mr. Nelson could get us up to speed. Tom and I could talk to him.
Yeah.
I remember getting an email notice saying that it wasn't gonna go out.
Okay,
Yeah, that does sound familiar.
okay. All right.
Mr. Chair, would it be worth us to just have a quick discussion about that?
Sure. And that,
And get ahead of the game? Because we're talking August, it comes up quicker than you think.
oh, yeah.
As far as a subject for it, once again, we're looking at Emerald Ash Borer coming down on us pretty quickly here. It's all around us. And any educational thing that we can do, and that should be at least one of the components of it. And I think we talked about that. So, having said that, if that's one of the components, and then this is a two-sided flyer.
I would support that, Scott. That could be one side, you know, how do we get ready for the onslaught of emerald
Exactly.
ash borer? The other side, you know, what's topical in August is that there's fall tree planting,
Yep.
winter pruning, and, you know, preparing your trees for the winter.
Right,
That could be the second side.
that would be the second side. And another component of the emerald ash borer side should be, not only after it's here or whatever, but the preventative things that we can do ahead of time. You know, those things there, that would be big.
It's time to plant the trees that you're gonna replace.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. So that would be my recommendation.
You know, sometime for future, not this time, but just, I guess I'd like to do a blurb sometime just on the value of planting trees on your property, why you want to do that. Does it add to your home's value? What does it do for shade? To encourage people to plant trees. So, you know,
That's very good.
so it doesn't have to be this time, but maybe we can do that another time.
I think that would be a good tie-in with, now is the time, if you have green ash, particularly if they're not in good condition, is to plant the replacement trees, and then you can tie the value of
Why,
having trees
yeah,
in your property
the
to
why,
that.
yep,
And I think people, if you talk about real estate values and adding value to your property, and people may read that and consider replanting a tree,
Well, if
or
I'm not,
planting more.
Mr. Chair, members, if I'm not stepping on a line here, I think that there is a lot of information on the economical benefits of tree planting too, for a homeowner, not just the house value, but the other expenditures that you make, like heating and cooling
Right.
and all those things, So, yeah. And we can just put that,
Benefits of
put that
trees.
right in there. That'd be a nice flyer. I think we got it figured out.
Chair and members, I also would like to reiterate that Thanksgiving is the best time of year to kill buckthorn. With the only remaining green leaves in the urban forest area. So I would recommend some sort of seasonal topical paragraph on buckthorn in the autumn flyer.
Could, along those lines, Mr. Chair, members, along those lines, would it be prudent for us to come up collectively, and I know this, there are several writers on this board that could write it, a letter to the editor from the tree commission, talking about the fall and buckthorn removal and all of that part of it, and just put that into a letter to the editor and get it out there electronically the best we can, something like that. And collectively signed by the Tree Advisory Commission. And the other part of that is I would also like to inject my ongoing 8-year, 9-year request that the city look into acquiring goats to follow up in areas that have been already had their buckthorn removed, and there's new shoots coming out, and now we got to go back in and do all this other stuff. And I think if anybody was reading the latest edition of the Journal's front page within the last couple of weeks, they saw that the state park, the state of Minnesota, brought in the goats to deal with that very thing and other invasives, along with garlic mustard and all that, by using goats. And so I would put my proposal back out there again, that we look into that, and possibly even, I know this is out there, but compare the costs of what it would take to do a cost-benefit analysis of what it would take to maintain our own herd of goats from the city of New Ulm, house them at the fairgrounds, have a caretaker and a person that takes care of them, and know someone that would be trained, and how much that would cost, versus getting a contractor like the state did with the Flandreau, and just come up with some figures to compare those things and what it would cost and how it would relate to efficiency of buckthorn removal and all of the aspects of that. Because I've been on that quite a while, and I know I get a little ad nauseum going on about it, but I just see it as such a cost-effective way and environmentally friendly way to deal with that whole issue. So there's my speech on it, but anyway.
Chair and members, I'd like to add to that I've already had discussions with Flandreau State Park Management, and that I look forward to some sort of an end-of-project report from them or information. I basically told them that you guys work out the kinks, you guys give it a shot, see how this thing goes, and if it goes well, I would very much be interested in considering hiring them or giving that a try on some city park land or trail land. So it's, as far as I'm concerned, it's already in the hopper. I'll be discussing this with the DNR staff, with Flanders State Park staff and their resource specialist, and see where and how it could work for the city. From a contractor standpoint, the start our own herd option is another idea that can be certainly looked into. But I'm very happy and excited that the DNR is doing that at Flanders State Park. Yeah, I've been out there to check on it a few times, and it seems to be actively working.
Yep.
And
How many goats you got out there?
I think
At
it's
the-
about
59.
59.
That's
yeah,
pretty good size group.
59
That's okay.
goats from a
It's a bunch of goats,
contractor
yeah.
near Faribault.
Okay,
There's only been
And a
one,
llama.
there's only been one escape so far, so.
okay. That's why he's only 59 or
Okay.
60.
There's a llama too.
Oh, okay,
That's what's looking after the herd.
okay.
I did have a question. So I know when I've removed buckthorn, if you don't get it out by the roots, it comes back. So how does this work then? If the goats eat this now, then what about next spring? Do you bring them in again, or how does this?
You're
how do
supposed to do a 2-year project on it.
So you do it
in the
2
same
years in a
area.
row,
Mm-hmm.
and then the buckthorn's
It-
gone?
It's gonna be coming back. so
Well, it'll come
there's
back
always- There's always
eventually.
gonna be some
There's always gonna be
regrowth.
some regrowth.
Well, right, because
But you're
the
taking,
seeds and.
you're taking out a lot of the mature plants that are seeding out, so it's gonna help that way, and
Would you deplete the roots over time too?
Yeah.
By constantly eating the top growth?
Definitely. Yeah, anything that would come back would be, not insignificant, but would be, you know, a small part of what was.
it's definitely not 100%,
Never,
but
no.
it takes a lot of it
Yeah,
out.
it really does. It gives the opportunity for the other plants to start to dominate and, you know.
I wonder if Commissioner Body has any more information from his knowledge of the DNR and maybe the contract or kind of some pricing or
I really haven't got in on that
Yeah.
part of it yet, so, but, yeah, I'm sure a lot of that'll be coming out as we get to the end of that project, so.
do you know how long it's scheduled for or
It
what?
was scheduled for a month, but they were only talking about having between 25 and 30 goats. So now there's 59 of them. So they figured it's probably gonna run a little bit shorter time after they deplete that area. And the discussion's been out there whether to move them to another spot or not, but that hasn't been confirmed. So
Well, I think it's great and very happy that the state of Minnesota is doing this locally for us
Is
and
that fence electrified out there?
yes,
Yeah, that's what I thought, okay. Well, that's gonna be interesting. The deer run through that or whatever,
yeah.
potentially, I guess. Excellent. Any other discussion on? Sounds like we covered that pretty well. Okay, item new business 6.5, 2019 Big Tree Contest, Catalpa update. Chair, guess I don't have any updates. Do we have a subcommittee that goes out and measures the catalpas out there?
I
assume.
can help with that again this year.
I can do that as
You
well.
guys want to do it? All right.
We'll get together on it and.
Perfect. We got 2 volunteers. We're locked and loaded.
Of course, it's sort of a moot point if the notice has not gone out.
Yeah.
Well, I understand that, but I mean, hopefully
Yeah.
we should get some response. You know, I did it several years in a row with Floyd Allman. I see he just passed away
Yeah, he
recently.
did,
Yeah,
Floyd.
we went out and measured, I don't know, cottonwoods and whatever, but he was a lot of fun to work with, but now he's passed away, but, okay,
So in addition to that, Chair and members, it is on the city website now, and the Journal will be covering it as a story tomorrow or very soon. And then we'll double check on the utility billing inserts. But the other information I have is that I know we do have some entries already. Our administrative assistant at Park and Rec has been collecting those, and I know we have at least a few entries already, so,
People were picking them up at the home show.
yeah.
Yes.
good, good. Question, what happens if someone comes in, they've misidentified the tree? Is that for you guys when you go out there and look at it, or, I mean, that can happen, right? I mean,
Yeah,
I'm sure it happens. Okay, all right.
we'll take a look at them when we.
Sure. All right, so that's our big tree contest. Who's on the subcommittee? We just discussed that. We have 2 excellent tree commissioners that are going to go out and tackle that situation. 2019 Home and Health Show. Lisa, Commissioner Langer?
I think it went well. I know there were volunteers from the commission that worked in the booth. I think we had good information, though some of the information before we do 2020 needs to be updated. Some of the stuff is old.
Okay.
So that's just a note, something I noticed. So, but I thought it was well attended. And Tom and Arlen, I don't know if you have anything to add.
I thought there was a lot of people coming through. It was pretty consistent on Friday anyways.
Ellen did a nice job.
Yes.
Ellen was there for the entire time, so we need to thank her for her energy.
The good location next to the popcorn machine.
Yes, we enjoyed that. So,
Well, it was a good, people stopped to get popcorn, and then you could talk to them while they were milling around eating popcorn. So.
Thank you,
So
Commissioner.
Chair and members, I don't know if we've made an official decision to continue that program in 2020, or if you want to discuss that later.
you mean to
That-
participate in the whole
Yeah,
show?
yeah, to let staff know that when registration comes out, we get the commission registered for 2020. That comes out later in the year. I don't
I'd
know.
be willing to make a motion that we attend the home show next year.
And I would second that.
Got a motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Yeah, I think it's a great exposure thing for the commission, et cetera. Okay, so we've reviewed 2019, we discussed 2020 briefly, and the motions are made and seconded and passed to participate or move towards participation. So item 6.7, 2018 City and PUC Labor Info Chair. What have we got here? I haven't had a chance to look at that yet. Anybody have any comments on what we're dealing with here? It looks like we've got,
This is information that was requested from Commissioner
Okay,
Romaine
got
and
it.
other commissioners, so
okay,
I think it's up for discussion
okay.
amongst you.
This related, we asked for this information because we were starting a process to perhaps suggest to the city or advise the city council that perhaps it's time to have a person dedicated doing forestry work for the city instead of having it split between the PUC and the city engineer's office, the street department, and Park and Rec.
Mr. Chair and members, also, one of the things that was involved in this discussion was that even if that person wasn't underemployed, that we would still like to have one person representing the city to talk to. That would be covering all of these activities that are going on in the various departments. So that, it was that communications with one person who could give us some answers quickly was another part of that. So,
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay. Yeah, that's a lot of hours. It's almost 4,100 hours. It's two,
FTEs.
exactly. All right, very good, very good. Any other comments on that?
Well, I guess I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, the bulk of the hours are in the pruning, the trees and the tree pruning removals in those two departments. When I think of if there was somebody hired or a control person, those hours wouldn't be included in that because that's manpower hours. A coordinator position would be coordinating all of that. So I think that number looks, to me, the 4,096 hours is a big number. But we wouldn't be looking at one person doing that work,
correct.
okay?
Right, right.
So-
Well, I would assume there'd be participation by the other departments. That's-
I would,
that's
I would assume they would
some level.
continue doing tree pruning and pruning trees. Those duties wouldn't fall
Right, right.
to a new position or not a volunteer,
Well,
but
one
already, a
person.
person who's already employed with the city,
Correct.
so.
Excellent, thank you. Any other comments or? Okay, CCM to help with exotic species, a chair, consider recommending the hire of conservation corps crew. So let's take a look at that. It looks like a flyer here. Who
This is my-
authored
this
this?
is my
This is you?
issue,
Got
Mr.
it.
Chair.
Shoot, go ahead.
Had conversations with Dr. Bancura at the home show, and she talked about the difficulty of her and her volunteers in dealing with the really large buckthorn that she's found on some of the sites in the city. And so I suggested and contacted the Conservation Corps of Minnesota and Iowa, and I just lost all my notes here. But anyway, and the Conservation Corps of Minnesota and Iowa can provide either a 4 or 5 person crew. That depends on what their hires are at Mankato. This spring they had a 4 person crew. There's a potential for a 5 person crew. And they come fully equipped with all the necessary tools. If we were asking for them to do herbicide work, they can do herbicide work for us. We would have to provide, the city would have to provide the herbicide. And the charge for a crew, 4 person crew, is $980 a day. And the charge for a 5 person crew is $1,225 per day. And my thought was we could consider this. I was hoping that Dr. Van Corer would be here. Perhaps just try a day this year and see how that works out. Without comment from Dr. Van Corer, I'm unwilling to make a motion at this point.
Right. So I think maybe we table it, but very interesting. It sounds like young 18, it says here 18 to 25 years old.
The
Yeah.
Corps members are 18 to 26.
Okay.
They're paid a wage, plus they get an educational
Okay.
stipend. It's tied in with AmeriCorps.
So they're educated how to use herbicides and equipment, et cetera. So
Right.
they're not coming out there and just, yeah, I see this one guy's got a chainsaw here. Takes a little bit of experience, but good, excellent.
Tom, would you propose that if we tried this for a day, I mean, I know we would want to speak with Dr. Van Kira, but would to pay for this would come out of the tree committee, our funds,
I
our
would-
$6,000 budget?
That's what I anticipated, is that the funding would come from our budget.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Then that begs the question is that who has the authority to spend the money?
Well, it would just take a motion. You know,
Well,
if you want to make.
Seems that, I'm not trying to be sarcastic,
let's-
but it seems that everybody has their fingers in our budget, so.
That's why we want that one person
That's
to talk
correct.
to. Mr. Chair, members, I would not be against someone making a motion to commit ourselves to hiring the crew for one day to try it,
Okay.
and then later deciding on what exactly it is we want them to do. I mean, if we secured them, got a good date down, we'd have plenty of time to talk to Dr. Van Kura or anybody else that wants to do a volunteer project or whatever it is at a later date, but yet we get them down, get them committed.
Yeah, the conversation I had with the regional contact, who's Doug Ekstrom in Mankato, was that they're busy through the spring.
Right.
Things tend to open up in the summer and the fall. Where
Right.
they do a lot of prescribed burning for
Yep.
a variety of public agencies, and they are tied into the Division of Forestry's wildfire suppression program. So this is a busy time of the year for them.
Okay.
Later on, we should be able to do that. If a motion is in order, I would make the motion that we negotiate with the CCM and with some input from Dr. Van Corer, and we settle on a date and hire the crew.
You know, the only discussion on that motion, and I would second the motion.
Okay.
And if we're on to further discussion, I would add to it that we designate where the funds will come out of at this time.
Well, the big
What part of the
money
budget,
that
you
we
know?
have in our budget is the rebate program.
Okay, so do we pull it out of the rebate program?
That's
You
the
know,
only place where we have at least $1,000.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion and seconded on the table. Any further discussion?
I-
Good. Yes.
Chair and members, my discussion would include the planning aspect. I would want to make sure that we have this really well-planned and well-vetted as far as locations and so on. We don't want to hire a crew for a day and they do a little piece here and then drive across town, a little piece there, and move around. I would like to work closely with all involved, including Ellen Van Cura, to find preferably one location that's got a lot of big, heavy work to do. And then I think that would maximize our efficiencies.
Yeah, the
with
comments from Dr. Van Coor at the home show was that the area between 12th South and 7th South has some really substantially large buckthorn in there that she was unable to do with her volunteers, and that's where that's a potential
Along the bike
site.
trail,
Yeah.
the recreational trail. Well, that's great. I'm just saying, let's plan this well and identify that location and make sure it's public property and so on. And I think it's a great idea to give this a try.
Well, I believe the first step would be to work with Dr. Van Coor to make sure we have a good site, and then we negotiate with CCM.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I believe this commission has the authority to designate funds for such an operation. I don't know that you have the authority to enter into a contractual agreement with another entity, so we might have to work through that process. Might take some city council authorization or something, but we can check into that for you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Restate the motion, please. Let's make sure we get it right.
Well, I guess I would make the motion that we work with Dr. Van Coor
Okay.
to secure a site suitable for a work crew
Excellent.
to spend a day removing invasive species.
Okay.
And then the second part of that would be to determine how we go about contracting through the city to get this work accomplished.
When would this occur? This summer? Or I see they work from February through December, so it happens sometime in that time frame. Correct?
Well, it'll be sometime between now and December.
Yep. Yeah, okay. Okay. Excellent, we have a second. Do we, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Same sign, okay, the motion is passed. Very good, excellent. I think that's a great program, sounds like. All right, we're at 6.9 on the new business schedule. Any other business to be brought forward to the commission at this time? Okay, then I think we are moving on to the next meeting date. As we all know, July 4th is falling on a Thursday this year, so, and that's the first Thursday 2 months from now, so
Correct. Chair and members, you have in the packet here some options, including, let's see, the Thursday prior and after are unavailable. Wednesdays prior and after are available. Additionally, which would be June 26, July 10, those Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Another option is Thursday, July 11th at 5 o'clock. So there's at least those three jobs. June 26, July 10, and July 11. There's at least those three options. But
okay, what are your
the
wishes?
July 11th would be at 5 o'clock. The others could be at 4 o'clock.
I'll be gone the end of June, but what are the wishes of the commission?
Thinking maybe the end of June would be better in case we don't have everything straight with that flyer yet. Would give us a little more time.
I'd make a motion that we hold the meeting at 4 p.m. on June 26th. Does that
Do we have a
work in
second?
anybody else's schedule?
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so it'll be next commissioner meeting, and I will state up front I will not be here, but we will
I'll
have,
state that up front as well. That whole period of
Oh,
time
you're gone
is
too?
Christmas trees, yeah. I'm
Yeah.
trimming Christmas trees and mowing, both, so.
I'll be in Vegas, actually, so I don't know why I brought that up, but.
Want to trade? Deer
But would
flies
we
and
have
horse
a-
flies are
Well, we'd have a
included.
quorum, right, with three?
Three
Commissioners?
is a quorum,
Yeah.
yeah.
Means you
I
guys
mean,
are
I,
on.
Okay.
Mr. Sparlin, are you unavailable all three of those options we
The
talked?
problem is that is my peak time for.
Yeah, okay.
Farming Christmas
And
trees.
Chair Shopper, you're not available the June option, but
June,
those July
is good.
options.
July's golden, I'm around.
So, commissioners, that, what do we got here? July 10 at 4, July 11 at 5.
I'm available, the rest of the group here, besides,
July
July
10th?
10 works for me as well.
okay,
Okay.
Makes no never mind to me, so.
so we do the 10th.
10th.
So,
Wednesday the 10th.
make a motion for 4 PM on July 10?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay, second? All in favor? Yep,
I'll second it.
okay,
Aye.
all right, very good. That'll be our next commission meeting.
Okay.
Okay, and did we have any additions to the? Okay, nothing. Okay, we can see the comments there. Please forward agenda items to Sue here at the Park and Rec. Do I have a motion to adjourn, or do I just declare it? I think.
You can declare
Yeah.
it.
Declare it.
I declare us adjourned unless there's some other final comments, but I think we've gone through the agenda, so.
Thank you for your patience.